Acorn TV, proud sponsor of Just Seen It, offers hundreds of hours of British mysteries, dramas, and comedies streaming commercial-free on demand. Learn about our 30-day trial at acorn.tv/PTV. On this episode of Just Seen It, we review the relationship drama, Blue is the Warmest Color.
Interestingly enough, this movie is based off a graphic novel called Blue Angel.
The fantastical tale of Mr. Nobody.
Sometimes I had no idea what was going on, but I could not keep my eyes off of it.
We chat with Jordan Vogt-ROBERTS, director of The Kings of Summer.
I mean, when was the last time you guys walked out of a comedy and said to yourselves, that was beautiful?
And based on true events, one man's battles against HIV in Dallas Buyers Club.
The friendship between our two leads is so wonderful, this movie could have been called The Cowboy and the Queen.
All right here on Just Seen It. Adele is a 15-year-old who dreams of becoming a teacher. Emma is a promising art student at a nearby college. When the two meet, they begin a relationship that will change their lives. In Blue is the Warmest Color.
Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Liz.
And I'm Aaron, and today we're here to talk about Blue is the Warmest Color, winner of the Palme d'Or at this year's Cannes. We've all just seen it. Liz, what did you think?
For me, this film is a triple threat because it's French, it's 3 hours long, and it's about lesbians. So I'm in it. Like that. This is my kind of movie. The filmmaker took the time to really immerse you in this world. There were scenes where any other studio, any other filmmaker would have cut it in half, and we just lingered on these shots that a lot of directors wouldn't have the confidence to linger on.
Guts, yeah. Well, it didn't feel like 3 hours, but it did drag a little bit at times. It's interesting. It's based off of a French graphic novel, and also the writer-director chose to incorporate parts of a story that he had always been really excited about into this story. And here we have this 3-hour film about a young girl who is finding her sexuality, and it's quite a film.
The author of the graphic novel actually didn't like the movie.
Oh, really?
For various reasons.
That kind of doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's really hard to tell where the graphic novel ends and our director's input begins.
The author of the graphic novel is a lesbian, and she had some problems with the depiction of lesbian sex in this movie, which is quite gratuitous.
Yes, it is.
Before we get too far down the line into that, I will say I thought it was kind of a nice movie. I agree that it had these quiet moments that you would not see in American film. It's probably, well, it is much more common in French and European film to sort of linger on those moments and build character through that way. I do have some questions about the sex scenes. They're there, okay. I'll give the movie that. They're shown in a very graphic light.
Gratuitous and graphic.
Very frank, graphic, gratuitous light. And I wonder if you take the sex scenes out of this movie, if it would have made anywhere near the splash at Cannes that it did.
And that's really what I struggle with, too. More along the lines of, do these graphic depictions of sex really mesh well with the rest of the story? And if so, what is our writer-director trying to say with these depictions? Because on the one hand, this could be seen as the graphic and physical representation of the emotions that we've been seeing on screen, but on the other hand, I just don't know if it coalesces with everything else that we've seen.
If you're watching a film and it's about the exposing and the vulnerabilities of this main character, of Adele, you know, it's all about her exploring herself, and the film has these long takes, film has these long scenes. I understand what you're saying about it being exploitative. I did think it was a little bit unnecessarily long. I mean, these are very long, kind of ridiculous sex scenes, but it worked with the tone and the style of the film, and I like nudity. I like sex in film, and I think it's important to show it. People are drawn to her because of her looks, and as an audience member, it detached me from the character a little bit, but the performance of our main character, Adele Exarchopoulos, made up for all of that.
Ta gueule, t'arrêtes de dire que je suis pas agressive, c'est elle qui m'agresse depuis 1h30 en me disant n'importe quoi, je me défonce et tout.
Et là, c'est toi qui es énervé, d'accord? Nous, on a
Je suis énervée parce que tu dis n'importe quoi devant tout le monde depuis tout à l'heure, je suis pas lesbienne, faut que je te le dise comment, putain. Baisse d'un ton, ça va, c'est bon. Toi, baisse d'un ton, on fait que parler. C'est elle qui m'agresse depuis tout à l'heure, pourquoi tu me dis de me taire? Toi, tu me parles comme ça, t'as quel âge? J'ai quel âge? C'est vous, vous avez quel âge? Je viens de te dire, je suis pas lesbienne, faut que je te le dise comment, putain, t'es conne.
She is an incredible actress. Let me just say, I haven't seen anything else that she's done, but she is a young woman who's incredibly talented. And in reading the press notes, I found out that our writer-director, Abdelatif Kashish, he had a casting call with her and they were eating food, and because of the way she ate food, he was like, yeah, I'm gonna pick her. And it's so great because her mouth and the way she eats food becomes an important part of her characterization.
It does. It's like the one part of her that's not quite flattering.
Yeah.
Is the way
She's
that she
voracious.
eats. I completely agree. I thought she was an absolute sensation in this movie, and I hope that we'll see a lot more of her, if not in French films, maybe here in the States.
Please, yeah.
Because I think that she could translate really well over here, and she's just dynamite in this movie. You know, if there's anything that I take away from it, my favorite part of it is definitely her performance. But Léa Seydoux, who plays her lover, is not far behind as well.
No, they both have such a high level of commitment to their roles. They never feel fake. You really feel like they're in love. I was very, very impressed by the connection that the two of them had.
Moi, j'étais hyper Sartre dans mes années lycée. C'est vrai? Ouais. Ça me faisait du bien. Surtout dans l'affirmation de ma liberté et de mes propres valeurs, tu vois. Et puis aussi son exigence dans l'engagement. J'adhère complètement. Ouais, c'est un peu comme Bob Marley, quoi.
As a director, Kashish has a lot of great verite style. We see a lot of long shots, a lot of beautiful minimal lighting, a lot of natural lighting, not a lot of makeup. I mean, it's a very real film, and it's shot in such a realistic way that you feel like you're a fly on the wall, that you're observing everything without intruding.
Blue is the Warmest Color has great performances. I just think without the graphic sex, people would just think it's a breezy romance. So I'm gonna say stream it.
This is certainly a very powerful and moving film, and everyone should go check it out, but people should be aware of the runtime. Still, I say see it.
French lesbian art house movie, you know, I'm gonna say see it.
Our votes add up to 2.5 tickets, which is a see it for Blue is the Warmest Color.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers! Here's to Blue Hawaii and My Blue Heaven and Blue Jasmine.
In the future, a 118-year-old man named Nemo is asked to tell his life story. During the interview, Nemo tells a tale of many lives.
How could you be so sure you even exist?
But his story blends reality and fantasy in Mr. Nobody.
Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Liz.
And I'm Kevin, and we're here today to review the movie Mr. Nobody, which is opening theatrically and on VOD. We've all just seen it. I'm going to start because I wanted to talk about this movie for 3 years.
I remember years ago when I saw this with you.
Yes, I took you to see it because I was like, this movie is so great, we need to go. And that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It debuted at the 2009 Venice Film Festival, and it's just now getting in North America. So it's taken 4 years to get here, and I don't really know why, because it is a pretty interesting, pretty good movie. It's a sci-fi drama that tells the story of basically parallel lives. I mean, I don't even really know how to describe it. But sometimes filmmakers will put out these sci-fi movies with these basically puzzle pieces that they'll throw at you, and that drives me batty because sometimes I'm like, you're just throwing out stuff and it makes no sense. And
Inception.
I was thinking more like Cloud Atlas.
Hey,
Oh, geez.
hey,
Stop
I like
it.
that.
I don't want to
Just-
get into this again.
I liked Cloud Atlas.
I did not. I felt like it was just a bunch of ham-handed hooey. Things thrown at you that made no sense cohesively whatsoever. This film, I felt like, even though I was confused, there was someone at the helm guiding me along,
Yeah.
and I was still fascinated at how it sort of unraveled, even if I wasn't necessarily sure what it all meant.
Right.
Yeah, even though you were confused, you felt like there was a master plan at work. And there are insert shots that are just like planted for like a second in the beginning of the film that are paid off at the end. It was just nice to see something that was well thought out.
There's a lot of philosophy in it, too. Watching it again last night, he really is laying out the groundwork for really what the story is trying to say. Whether you're all going to piece it together when you're watching it, probably not. You probably want to go back and see it again. But that's what I really liked about it, too, is exactly what you're saying, is it all combined together.
The style is very saturated. It's very basic colors. It's almost like you hear about how kids are drawn to like bold, saturated colors, reds, yellows, big, blues. That's what this film is dressed in. And that helps also with the setup of the 3 separate storylines. The film explores Jared Leto or Nemo Nobody's potential lives with these 3 separate women, and they're each associated with 3 separate colors. So it's like that style helps you bring you into the story a little bit more.
And it helps too that they do focus on ages. So it's always like there's a stories at age 9 when his parents get divorced, and then there's a story at 15 when he falls in love, and then 34 when he's an adult. So I think that helps to kind of follow the multiple narratives in each of those, plus the narratives of the 3 women.
Jared Leto is very good in this movie, and one thing is sometimes with these weird sci-fi movies, I can feel like an actor just seems like they're adrift, like they're hanging on for dear life. I don't know what's going on, but this I've got to be doing something in this movie. Here, even though he's playing all these sort of different iterations of the same character, I never felt that he was lost. He always seemed to be with the director on this journey.
Yeah.
Though I do think it's an unusual choice. I mean, when I found out that Jared Leto was in this film, I just think of My So-Called Life, and then I see these sporadic art house projects that he participates in, and then now he has this music career, so it's just such an odd choice, especially to be surrounded with what is now actually a star-studded cast.
Absolutely.
At the time a few years ago, these actors were known, but not as prominent as they are today. You have Risa Fons, you have Sarah Polley, Juno Temple.
Diane Kruger's in The Bridge now.
Right. I mean, it's pretty amazing how all these actors have just blown up.
If they had released this wide theatrically and made a big deal about it, which I really wish they were doing, Jared Leto would get nominated for an Oscar. I would hope that he would, because that's hard to do, I think, what he's done, because there's so many different... He's not even just different versions of himself. He has to go through a lot of different things. And to keep those kind of in order in his head and to make them so different. Every time I saw him, I knew, and it wasn't just the hairstyles either. Every time I saw him, I knew exactly who he was, what his emotional state was, and what he was trying to accomplish in whatever lifetime he was in.
Hey. 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 Excuse me.
Our writer-director, Jaco Van Dormel, is the reason this film is so good. Every aspect of it, again, is planned out and thought out in advance, but you could tell his love for the subject matter, his love for the story is just so prevalent in every scene.
Mr. Nobody is a complex, bewildering, but ultimately satisfying sci-fi film that you should seek out. See it.
This is a challenging film for sure, but it's a masterwork in so many areas of filmmaking that I say see it.
Mr. Nobody is a great, fairly undiscovered gem. See it. Cheers.
Cheers.
To Mr. Nobody.
To Finding Nemo. Nobody.
Out now is the new grindhouse horror comedy from director Robert Rodriguez, Machete Kills.
Machete, go kick some ass.
I'll be your handler. You ready for this? Good for calls, texts, tweets.
Machete don't tweet.
The enemy may have a missile, but we have Machete.
Sequel to 2010's Machete, Machete Kills picks up with our titular murderous ex-federale hero as he works with his ICE girlfriend to crash an arms deal between the U.S. military and Mexican terrorists. But grindhouse heroes don't have girlfriends. And Jessica Alba was probably busy with something else, so she's killed almost immediately to inspire his revenge. Now, this kind of movie is supposed to have a ridiculous, over-the-top story, but that doesn't mean it gets to be bad. The film starts to drag in the middle, and when high-concept films like this drag, the stupidity stops being clever and fun and is instead just stupid. With such a star-studded cast, not everybody gets as much time on screen as we may want, but the time we do get is glorious. Mel Gibson, Charlie Sheen, Cuba Gooding Jr., Antonio Banderas, Sofia Vergara, and Lady Gaga in her acting debut all grace the screen. And the fact that these actors are in this movie is almost as much fun as the characters themselves. And of course, Danny Trejo is back as our gruff hero. Unfortunately, he's slowing down a bit. His fight scenes aren't as fast as they used to be, there's fewer of them because of it, and the fight scenes that we do get are sloppy and unimpressive. It's supposed to be bad, but unfortunately it's not always the right kind of bad. However, Machete Kills is perfect for a night in with friends, so stream it.
Hi, I'm Salim.
And I'm Brenna, and today we're here with Jordan Vogt-Roberts, the director of Kings of Summer. We're very happy to have you. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am a filmmaker. Kings of Summer was at Sundance in 2013, and we released this summer, which has been kind of a weird whirlwind. I'm a pretty big dork, and I just grew up loving movies and being transported to different worlds. Then I started making stop-motion movies with my action figures in my basement.
You'll fit in perfectly with us, then, because we are all dorks.
Very much so. So Kings of Summer was your first feature, as well as Chris Gaetta's first script, which was on the blacklist for a little bit. How was that script resurrected, and how were you brought onto it?
I'd been thinking long and hard about what I wanted my first feature to be. And I'd pitched on a couple other things, but then the script came my way, and my agents and managers sent it to me, and they're like, you should read this. And I put it down, and I remembered calling them and kind of yelling at them and being like, why are you messing around with me? Like, clearly some other guy is directing this. And they're like, no, it's an open directing assignment. And I couldn't believe that because, you know, generally early on when you're getting sent these scripts before you've made your first feature, a lot of the stuff you're getting sent is not great. In fact, it's like aggressively not great. I fell in love with the script so hard, and I kind of made it my mission. I was like, I want to win this job. And so I put together all of these materials, and if I lost the job, I wanted to effectively be able to walk away and sleep at night and say, I did everything that I could. It was everything that I wanted to do with my first feature. Like, it was something that I knew I could take and make simultaneously really funny, but really sort of dark and, you know, ride that line between what it is to be 15, you know, which is like this incredible explosion of freedom, yet this dark pain of not understanding yourself and your place in the world. And I knew I could take it and make it something that was cinematic and visual, which is something rare for comedies.
Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful film.
That was a really important part of the movie for me. My DP, Ross Reege, who I'd worked with for a long time. It's just, I mean, when was the last time you guys walked out of a comedy and said to yourselves, that was beautiful?
It doesn't happen very much.
Right, it doesn't happen, and in my mind, there's no reason that can't happen. People treat comedy like the joke is the most important thing and that you can't have a sense of style and a world around it. And because also a lot of it is about the kids in the woods, and you want the woods and their experience to be lush and adventurous, and you want to feel that texture, you want to feel what they're going through. So it was a big thing for us to really try and push it aesthetically and stylistically.
We make the rules, you know? Like men.
So we're just gonna move out here and build a house from scratch?
How hard can it be?
Hold on, what is this kid doing here?
I don't know. I'm afraid to tell him to leave. I don't know what he's capable of.
You have the character Biagio, who is very over the top. He's ridiculous, and he's hilarious. And he doesn't quite fit into any of the other sort of themes going, but he doesn't stick out. He's not obnoxious. He's not unnecessary. How did you be able to include him with all of this other stuff?
That was always a really tough character because the voice of Biagio very much is Chris's voice. That's so purely him. It was this really tricky thing because on one hand you have this character that if you execute properly, you're getting all of these laughs, but if you botch it, then you have jokes falling flat every couple minutes, you know, and that's going to take people out of it. Falling back on the core idea of saying everybody knew some weirdo on the playground who was like, that kid's nuts and that kid's parents are nuts. It never tipped over into being caricature, you know, because at one point he becomes an actual emotional component of the movie, and so it was more about constructing a character where you simultaneously know next to nothing about him, but you know everything you need to know.
He's very weird, and I thought, that kid is really weird, but at the same time, when he got hurt, I was hurting for him. I felt really bad for him, and a lot of people, like, attached to him, even though he is so unconventional.
This is a big thing in, like, the post-Wes Anderson era of filmmaking, where I think people have started to confuse quirk for character. When people just say, oh, we can make something really quirky, and that means there's a character, then it's like, no, that's just jokes.
Yeah.
That's just jokes and something that's weird for the sake of weird. If you can actually come back around, and that's why Wes's stuff is so great, because as kooky as those people are, they're still characters, you know, there's still something bizarre going on there. There's still something happening internally.
Are there any bears in these woods? Hope so. Bear would feed us for a month.
Perhaps we can disillusion him. A bear who doesn't believe in anything will be easier to bring down.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sitting with us. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Please help me spread the word on the movie.
Will do.
Thank you.
To Kings of Summer.
Cheers.
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 Based on true events in 1986, Ron discovers that he is HIV positive. But his treatment for the disease is thwarted by a faulty medical system.
Newsflash for y'all. There ain't nothing out there can kill Ron Woodruff in 30 days.
Ron battles the establishment to help himself and others in Dallas Buyers Club.
Hi, I'm Brenna.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Zoriana. Today we're going to review Dallas Buyers Club starring Matthew McConaughey. We've all just seen it. What'd you think?
Well, first I'd like to introduce Michael Rousselet, who's here as our guest reviewer today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. I do 5-second films, which is an online web comedy. We do a new 5-second film every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Been doing it for 5 years. We have 1,400 films.
And they're hilarious.
They're hilarious. They're very short.
Since it's your first time, how about you tell us what you thought of the film?
Dallas Buyers Club is a fascinating story about a modern-day, real-life Robin Hood who is sticking it to the pharmaceutical companies. The writing wasn't all there. There was some character missing, especially with the relationship between Rayon and Ron. I don't think that they actually really emotionally connected.
This is a project that actually took 20 years to get to the screen. The screenwriter, Craig Borton, he actually drove from Hollywood to Texas to meet with Ron Woodruff. And
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then it was actually a month before Ron passed away. In terms of talking about like the relationship's believability, I do think that Ron ultimately was a man who was looking to do business first. He wasn't looking to connect with the gay community, but that was just a byproduct of what ended up happening.
He didn't want to connect specifically. He's a homophobe, and that's what makes his story so fascinating. You have a homophobic rodeo guy from Texas who gets AIDS in the middle of the AIDS crisis in the 80s, when it's associated mainly with the gay community. So to see him struggle with that with his existing relationships and how they all end, and then how he has to make all these new ones in this business venture, and it is very much a business venture. It is money first.
Yeah.
It takes character development, it takes a character arc for him to realize that maybe it's not all about the money. But throughout, it is mainly about the money for this character.
What I liked about the script is that despite the fact that it tackles a very serious subject matter, it doesn't feel preachy at all. It's not sentimental. There are a lot of funny moments in it too.
It's you feel really bad, but it's a hilarious, heartfelt movie.
Well,
There's a lot of jokes.
At the end of it, it's about this friendship that develops between these two guys. It's about loyalty, it's about determination, and in a way, we all relate to that.
I was really blown away by Matthew McConaughey's performance, and Jared Leto especially. I thought Jared Leto stole the show.
Why are you so good to me? Bless your little heart.
Just promise me you'll show up for the rest of the trial.
I promise you that I will try my very best.
I want you to mean it.
The performances of Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto are the main reasons to go see this movie.
Definitely.
Other than Matthew's extreme weight loss, it's just the fact that he's doing a movie that has nothing to do with doing trite romantic comedies or showing off his washboard
He's finally
abs.
gotten away from that, and it's amazing. You can see the talent that you always kind of knew was there, but now you can see him fully.
You see him as the character. You don't see him as Matthew McConaughey.
I didn't once think, oh, it's Matthew McConaughey with that mustache and anorexia. It was always Ron Woodruff.
Exactly. This is his Philadelphia, and he will likely get nominated for an Oscar. But I also think Jared Leto will also get nominated for an Oscar in the supporting category. He went down to 116 pounds, and he lived as this character throughout. He never broke during a production, and he encompasses it completely. So A-level roles are his if he wants to.
I thought he was very delicate, but he stole the scene, which is interesting. Someone that's very subtle and delicate commands so much attention from the audience.
And Jennifer Garner is in this, and she's okay. The problem lies with how her character is written. There's no real character development. She exists to further the story for other characters, and she's written very generically.
Yeah.
Therefore, we have a very generic character.
I was really excited to know that Danny Elfman was the composer, but at the end of the film, I don't recall hearing any score. Maybe it was there, maybe it was super subtle.
That just means you were so into the film and so immersed by it and really carried
Maybe.
away. Director Jean-Marc Vallée shot this film in 25 days, and he shot it entirely without using any artificial light.
And it's still beautiful, and it looks period appropriate, so that tactic of shooting it that way mixed with the clothing and the cars and the environment just makes it look even more like it actually was taking place in the 80s.
I thought it was well shot and it was beautiful, and I like to light, I like to gaff and grip, and I was stunned that
It's all
artificial
natural
light.
lighting, yeah.
These are patients.
Yes, sir.
They're also the names of players on the Dallas Cowboys.
That's a hell of a coincidence, isn't it?
Now, usually I feel that underrepresented groups should be able to make their own films and tell their own stories, but it's such an interesting story of seeing this straight guy dealing with this community that I can forgive it.
Career best performances by McConaughey and Leto make this film a definite see it.
I liked it, love the performances of Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto. I say, see it.
Dallas Buyers Club is a deep and interesting story. Definitely see it. Cheers!
Cheers.
To Jared Leto and Matthew McConaughey's performances. Thankfully, it picks up a bit in the third act and ends.
I really want to point out the actors that played the 15-year-old versions of Nemo and Anna. Toby.
We're not gonna do this on this movie.
I thought it was fantastic.
Acorn TV, proud sponsor of Just Seen It, offers hundreds of hours of British mysteries, dramas, and comedies streaming commercial-free on demand. Learn about our 30-day trial at acorn.tv/PTV.